very good morning to you.
Morning.
So, a very well indeed. A big demo coming down your way today. They've already started arriving. Farmers in tractors, farmers coming in on coaches. A lot of people coming in to support the farmers as well. This seems to be a very wrong-headed policy from the government, and it might prove to be the most unpopular one they've come up with yet.
I mean, not only is it a disaster for the farming industry, it's a disaster for the country because, of course, the food providers of the nation need to be supported, otherwise the shelves are going to run empty.
Yeah, and that is a genuine threat, isn't it? I mean, the farmers I've spoken to this morning, they don't want to cause food shortages, but they say, look, you know, we're just going to be in a position where we can't provide food at the kind of prices that people at the moment are paying for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and it's even worse than that, because I think what we're going to see from this policy is a brain drain of the brightest and best young people away from the industry who will no longer see a future in farming and food production, who will leave the sector, and that will leave us in a position as a nation where, right at the moment where we need the brightest and the best to come and help fight climate change, to help feed the nation, to solve the environmental challenges that we face, we're going to lose the brightest and the best away from our sector, and that will be a disaster for the future.
Yeah, and one of the things that's been pointed out to me, it particularly annoyed the farmers, is that Keir Starmer appeared before the National Farmers Union conference last year and told them in no uncertain terms he would not put any taxes up for farmers, he would not raise any kind of money of any kind from them, and that they could trust him. And I think the farmers actually believed him, and they now feel totally betrayed.
Absolutely. I mean, it's worse than that, actually, because Steve Barclay, when he was Secretary of State, wrote to Steve Reed, the current Secretary of State, and said, are you going to touch agricultural inheritance relief? And he said, absolutely, categorically not. We have no plans to do that. That was a complete lie, now we know that. But, you know, here we are. And there's still chance for the government to change its mind, to reverse this disastrous policy, to save the nation and make sure we continue to get food on our shelves.
But will they, though? That's the point, because they seem ideologically sort of, you know, tied to some of these policies that they're putting out, like the winter fuel allowance. I mean, we've got the first snows of the season, temperatures dipping down below zero for an awful lot of parts of the country. An awful lot of pensioners today will be sitting there wondering if they can afford to put on their heating because they don't have the winter fuel allowance. Labour, by the way, in Scotland have just reversed that and said if they got into power in Scotland, they would reinstate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a catalogue of disastrous policies, to be honest. Like, not even I imagine today new Labour government would attack pensioners, then would attack students, and then attack the food producers of the nation. I think they're just going completely after the wrong people. It's ideologically driven, and it's vital for the future that we support the farming sector. We support those who are looking after our environment and producing food to keep us all well fed.
Yeah, absolutely right. Can I ask you about Rachel Reeves as well? I mean, the Conservative Party are now asking some pretty serious questions about her fake CV, because it does seem to be, it's not a minor matter, is it? When you pretend that you were an economist at the Bank of England when you were not, and also you pretend you were an economist at Halifax Bank of Scotland when you were not. She's changed her CV a couple of times. I mean, it's quite a remarkable state of affairs, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think even number 10 just seem to be distancing themselves a little bit. And I don't know if it's a breach of the ministerial code. I think someone should look at that. I know that Richard Holden has written to her to seek clarification on lots of these points, but it's a serious matter. And I think if she's ended up Chancellor of the Exchequer on the back of a sort of false CV and managed to convince her Labour colleagues that she has the financial acumen, if you like, to deal with that very important role, I think that's, you know, it's clearly we've been misled, haven't we? But as we can see, I think those things are coming home to roost now, aren't they? Because you can see the decisions that they're making seem to have no financial common sense.
Exactly right. And the ministerial code does say that ministers are required to be truthful. So I think she's certainly broken that one.
Yeah.
Well, we shall see.
I think that, I mean, that's a very serious matter. You know, if the Chancellor of the Exchequer has broken the ministerial code, that is a very serious matter, and clearly her position would be untenable at that point.
Yeah, I think so. Mark, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Mark Spencer, former Conservative Farming Minister in Westminster, saying basically Rachel Reeves, if it turns out that she's lied, and I think we know that she has, about her CV and about her qualifications as an economist, that would be a breach of the ministerial code, and she would have to resign her job.